Russian man like inside the dark, call me Bill Snatcher. Just the brother for the rapture. I hang live, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a garden and start killing. It's manifesting. The God's work like appliances, dealing in my sight like a lot.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Generations discussion. And today, I want to talk to you guys about the huge elephant in the room that has existed for over a year now, which is the conversation about whether or not Ada and Damon's abilities are too overpowered right now. Honestly, I can see both sides of the conversation here. I can see how some people think the cyborg siblings are just too broken for the series, and I can also see the other side where people, especially after the last manga chapter, say everyone who is saying that is just overreacting. As I've stated in the past in an older video, Ada and Damon's powers are so overpowered that they're otsutsuki level broken, which is fitting given that the otsutsuki are some of the most hacked characters in the series. But is all this concern warranted? Well, in my opinion, I think there's been a severe overreaction, and I'm going to explain it to you from a neutral standpoint. I'm not going to be taking a full stance in this one. So in my opinion, these powers, they're hacks. But as I've been saying for a while, the counters to these powers are going to be so simple given Kishimoto's track record. And lo and behold, we learned that the counter to Damon's ability is that he has to make physical contact in order to cut it on. Just physical contacts with somebody in the area. If he isn't able to establish physical contact with someone, then he can't reflect the attacks, which means he can be hit. While we don't know the full extent of Ada's weakness, those are very simple as well. While we don't know the full extent of the weaknesses to Ada's jutsus, here's the thing, those are going to be very simple as well. Let's look at their powers and then take a look at some of the more overpowered jutsu that exist in the Naruto franchise. Jutsu that existed before Boruto was even born in the timeline, which should be more than enough to get across the point that there's been some overreaction here. Again, I'm not saying the powers aren't broken, but I am saying it's not as bad as some people are making it out to be, which tends to be the case with anything. We'll start with Damon since his powers are the easiest to understand. Essentially, his reflection ability requires physical contact before it can be used, but once it is, he can reflect all attacks that are aimed at him, and the greater the bloodlust of the attacks, then the more violent the reflection is going to be. Damon doesn't have to be aware that you're attacking him. You just have to envision an attack, and then when you do, he's going to make you pay for it. Which, for further clarification, Damon doesn't have to be touching you. He just has to be touching someone in the area when you're getting ready to attack him. Ada, on the other hand, one of her powers is almost useless in battle if she's not in a support role, and the other power is broken and is a great defense given it strips away the killing intent, much like Hanami from Jujutsu Kaisen. Her enchantment ability allows her to make anyone and everyone around her her love slave that is totally captivated by her. It makes it nearly impossible to resist her commands, and it is impossible to harm her when she does have you under it. If you do try to harm her with killing intent, her enchantment is so strong that it will literally damage the brain and leave it destroyed in the process, making you a human vegetable. Her enchantment hits people in different ways. Some people have vertigo, others have headaches, and others have fever, and most fall in love with her, evident by Code confessing his love for her and being heartbroken when she pulled a Subaru from ReZero, but instead of saying I love Amelia, she pretty much said I love Kawaki, and it triggered Code. Once someone is under her enchantment, it stays active until she dies. So far in the story, the three weaknesses that we've seen to her ability is that people have to be in the same room with her, otherwise the enchantment can't take place. The other weakness is that indirect and non-offensive attacks can work on Ada. The final weakness is that her abilities don't work on blood relatives or on otsutsuki. Her other ability is the dojutsu or the rinnegan, which allows her to see everything happening in the world once the half moon on her eyes turns black, and she can see everything that's ever happened in the past up to the date of her birth. Being in a different dimension doesn't excuse you from her visual power, because she was able to see Code's conversation with Ishiki. However, when Momoshiki froze time to speak to Boruto, she wasn't able to see that conversation. Both Ada and Damon appear to be hiding powers just based off of Ada's conversation with Code, where she refused to confirm or deny that they were hiding powers. But here's the thing, if this is it, these are all the powers they have, think about the information I just laid out. 2 out of the 3 of those powers are relatively simple to counter. Don't allow physical contact. Don't be in the same room if you aren't immune to enchantment. And if you are in the same room, you have to indirectly attack her. Now here's where we gotta swallow a bitter pill and slap off those rose-tinted nostalgia glasses people tend to wear when it comes to nitpicking the powers of anybody in the Boruto franchise. Yes, we're going into villains of god levels of power, but that is a power issue. Complain all you want about the power scaling, but narratively there is an explanation for why the characters are this strong, and it ties into stuff we were told in the Naruto franchise, which I'll be doing a whole video explaining that because there's some information people forgot. But to say these abilities slash jutsu are too broken and that is so unfair, that's borderline cap. In the Naruto franchise, there have never been boundaries for jutsu at all. We've had jutsu more broken than the ones that we have here, and I'm going to explain to you which jutsu, and these are just some of the jutsu, not all of them. Take Jubi Madara's limbo clones. They exist in another dimension and they cannot be fought unless you have 6-pass chakra, and you can't sense the clones unless you have 6-pass sage mode like Naruto did, and you can't see the clones unless you have a rinnegan like Sasuke. Anybody else fighting Madara's limbo clones, they stand no chance. He can just have a clone walk up, snap your neck, or use the human path to rip out your soul. Madara can use limbo with no relative issues, but we don't want to talk about that because it doesn't fit our narrative headcanon of Boruto characters just have broken abilities, and we've never seen anything like this before. Now, what about Koto Matsukami, the ultimate genjutsu that literally strips away free will? One version of Shisui's eye strips away free will, but it can only be used once per day. The other eye has Koto Matsukami that can permanently erase your free will for a command, but it can only be used once every 10 years. And as I've discussed in another video that I'll leave a link to in the description box, there's evidence that that only applies to anyone besides Shisui. Now, what about the Izanagi? Damon's jutsu is no different than the Izanagi that Danzo used, in that both of them require preparation, but once the preparation is complete, there's no stopping it. Izanagi requires hand seals and an active Sharingan in order for it to activate, just like Damon's jutsu requires physical contact. Replace the hand seals with physical contact, there you go. Now, what about Izanami, the genjutsu that Itachi used on Kabuto? It's the same damn thing. Once preparation is complete, the jutsu cannot be broken. The person stuck inside of a time loop inside of their mind until the victim accepts the past mistakes and by extension accepts the true version of themselves. But let's draw the line with these abilities and act like they're the first sets of overpowered abilities and the weaknesses are just too impossible to comprehend. When we literally have jutsu like Limbo that have the slimmest of ways to counter it. Just like Ada's enchantment can only be countered by the fewest of people, i.e. otsutsuki or blood relatives. There's not that many people that fit that description. Boruto, Kawaki, and Damon. Just like there aren't that many people who have 6-pass sage mode. Literally only Naruto has the ability in the manga, which is a reminder, 6-pass power is not what I'm referring to. 6-pass power is what Madara and Obito used when they were the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. I'm referring specifically to 6-pass sage mode. Not many people had the rinnegan. You can count on one hand the number of shinobi who had the rinnegan. I'm not talking about otsutsuki, I'm just talking about shinobi. You can count on one hand the number of people who had 6-pass chakra, Naruto and Sasuke. Anybody else who does not fit those parameters cannot attack the limbo clones. I get it. People are pissy that Ada and Daemon are as physically as strong as they are, but that's a power scaling problem. It's not an ability problem. As I've stated numerous times, skill does not equal power. I'm wrapping up a video on why the inner car members are so powerful, because it's very long overdue, because there's information people are getting from the Naruto manga that applies to the car members, and I'm going to explain it to you. But while you wait on that video, be sure to check out these other videos you're seeing on the screen right now.